Chapter 12. Ride away, Peter shall ride. He shall have a pussy-cat, tied to one side. Too late to go back. Too late even to make for the shadow of one of the huge oaks dotted here and there in the meadow. They had been seen. From high above came the twin screams of anger and discovery. "There she goes!" shrieked Madame Mumblechoke, and the doctor shouted at the same time. "Two of them! She had an accomplice all the time. Look, two of them on the same broomstick. And that," cried Madame, "means they can't go any higher. Sitting ducks, dear doctor, sitting ducks. We've got them both. Are you ready? You take the port, I'll take the starboard. Now, attack!" The two broomsticks, high in the night air, wheeled away from one another, then tilted, turned, and dived. Their speed was tremendous. They tore downwards on a steadily rising scream of air, one from each side, deadly as hawks plummeting on their prey. Mary felt the little broomstick give a sudden leap of effort and thought, without hope, that it was trying its best to accelerate. But no. It dropped another 2 feet, so that the children's toes were brushing the dew from the long, seeding grasses. Harebells shook with a sweet, whispering rattle. Tansies swept their legs with dew. A thistle exploded softly against Mary's foot, its cloud of seeds scattering like ghosts through the dim grass. She gripped the broomstick more tightly. "Please, please. Oh, Peter, it's going to land and let them." "No," said Peter urgently, in her ear. "Leave it alone. It knows what it's about, don't you see? They can't pounce on us when we're flying as low as this. Coming down from that height they'd run straight into the ground, and bash themselves and their broomsticks to bits. Unless they can actually force us to land, they can't do a thing." His voice was lost in the whining scream as Dr. D swept down on them. The little broomstick had held steadily to its course, sailing forward straight and level, but in the exact moment that the doctor swooped, it jinked sideways, so that the clinging children lurched with it and their right feet struck the ground. Their steed checked for a moment, but recovered immediately and leaped away. The attacking broomstick overshot them at great speed. For a moment it looked as if the doctor would hit the ground, but at the last instant he recovered, and his broomstick tore on, away, rearing upwards fast to regain height. "Feet up," gasped Peter. "Lie as flat as you can." As Mary obeyed him, the other broomstick came down to the attack. Madame was bolder than the doctor, or else her broom was not so well under control. She came down at terrific speed, so fast that her yell of triumph was torn half away by the wind of the dive. The familiars as well. "We have them all. Now land, you little fools. Land, or you will be hurt." She was on them. Her grabbing hand brushed Mary's hair. The little broomstick stopped dead, sat back on its bristles for one bone-rattling moment, then switched clear round like a horse turning on its haunches, and sped away at right angles over the meadow. Madame Mumblechoke had been travelling too fast to stop or turn. Mary, looking back, saw her hit the ground. At the last moment her broomstick shied, met the ground in a long, tearing skid, then, rearing sharply, shot straight up into the air again. In front of it, suddenly, loomed the black bulk of a tree. The broomstick swerved, but fractionally too late. It struck the outer branches of the tree, lurched, side-slipped, and threw its rider. Madame Mumblechoke, her grip loosened by the near crash, hurtled off in a tangle of flying black skirts, to hang like a ragged old crow, screeching, in the high boughs of the tree. "That'll teach her," said Peter with satisfaction. "I told you our broomstick knew what it was doing. Look, I think it's saved us." On the words the little broomstick, rising slightly in a flowing leap, crossed a fence and a wide ditch that smelled of meadowsweet, and ran with them into the shadow of a deep, dark wood. Just before the trees closed round them they heard Madame cry, "Dr. D! Dr. D!" There was an answering shout from high above, then the whistling track of his broomstick curved away and back towards the top of the oak. "That should keep them busy," said Peter cheerfully. Mary was patting the little broomstick with her fly-by-night hand. This seemed to give it pleasure. It gave little jumps and curvets as it carried them swiftly along a curly path through the trees. The going here was more difficult even than it had been in the lane, for the path was narrow, and the wood, consisting of big trees set widely apart, was thick with undergrowth. Trails of ivy and honeysuckle hung from the boughs, holly and elder and hazel clustered thickly between the huge trunks of oak and beech. There were ferns everywhere, and the seeding heads of foxgloves rattled as their feet struck them in passing. In the darkness it was like a jungle. "This must lead us home in the end," said Mary, voicing the thought for both of them. "The little broomstick must know the way. The only thing is, it'll take an awfully long time." It seemed ages, even flying. As quickly as she could, she told him of her adventure. "How long did it take you, Peter, without a broomstick? And how did you get here anyway?" "I had my bike for part of the way. Somebody told me they thought they'd seen Gib down in the garden of an empty house near the river. I don't know if you know it. Well, I went that way, but there was thick mist at the river bridge, so I left my bike there, and walked. It was easier. I thought I heard Gib, you see, calling in the mist. I suppose that may have been magic too. Anyway, I lost my way in the mist, and couldn't get back, and then I found Dr. D's house." "How far from the bridge?" asked Mary. "I don't know. I seem to be walking for ages, but, hallo, I can see the end of the wood. That's a pity. I hoped it would take us the whole way. If they're waiting for us at the other side, they're probably still stuck at the tree," said Mary hopefully, "or her broomsticks run away, or..." She stopped. Unmistakably, just above the crests of the woodland trees, they could hear Madame Mumblechook and the doctor talking. The two of them must be flying a short way apart. Their voices were raised, and quite distinct. "In the wood. I saw it distinctly. We have only to wait up here, cruising," said Dr. D clearly, "to see which way they break cover. Then we have them." "Has it occurred to you, my dear doctor," Madame had, it appeared, quite recovered from her mishap, "has it occurred to you that the girl must have the master spell? How else could she have undone all those expert transformations, and destroyed our laboratories and all our years of work, all in a moment? Everything went. Everything. All the main building. It was impossible to get the fire under control until it reached the boarder's wing. Then it went straight out of its own accord. Certainly caused by the master spell. It must have been perfectly true that her name was Smith. When we catch her, dear doctor, it will need care, but I feel sure that we can deal with her." Here for a moment, mercifully, the conversation was lost in a gust of wind that combed the treetops. But when this ceased, the voices were nearer, right overhead. They seemed to be circling. "Offer you the hospitality of my house," Dr. D was saying. "My resources, compared with those of the college, are small indeed, but I venture to think, dear madam, that you will find my own small laboratories very well equipped indeed. More than adequate," he added with a nasty chuckle, "to deal even with Miss Mary Smith, Gormbridge or no." "But the master spell," said Madame Mumblechook anxiously. "The master spell only works till daylight, even for a genuine Mary Smith," said Dr. D with another chuckle. "All we have to do is to keep them contained in this wood till daylight, then run them down at leisure. Unless of course they decide to stay there and hide, in which case, we simply starve them out," said Madame Mumblechook with satisfaction. "Exactly," said Dr. D. "And now, dear lady, if we gain a little height we shall be able to watch all sides of this wood at once." His voice dwindled as the two broomsticks rose. The sound of their circling grew fainter, but was still there, a background to the swishing progress of the children's own steed through the ferns. The children did not speak. It was too bad. All they could do was to leave it to the little broomstick. But it seemed as if the little broomstick had understood. All of a sudden, a few yards short of the starlit gap that showed the end of the wood, it stopped and sank back on its twigs. Peter got off without a word, and walked forward to the fence. Then he came back. It's another open field, a big one, sloping down to what looks like a stream. A few trees there, but not enough. Not thick cover like this, and beyond that it looks just like open moor. What are we going to do? Peter patted the little broomstick, absently. He cleared his throat. "Look, this is silly. I heard what they said. It's obvious what we ought to do. I told you before, in Dr. D's garden. If I stay here and you go on, then at least one of us stands a good chance. You take both cats, and we could arrange a signal. If I broke out of the opposite side of the wood and drew them off, That would give you a start, and if there was only you on the broomstick it could get you well above cloud before they realized what had happened, and with that start. But what about you? Oh, I'd be all right. I'd dodge back in before they saw it was only me. But, said Mary, it's not like it was in Dr. D's garden. They know you're in here. Once they realized you hadn't even got a broomstick, and they'd guess what had happened. Sooner or later, they'd come in and look for you. They'd never find me. It's dark. And in the morning, well, said Peter, it's a big wood. I'd climb a tree or something, and you'd be on your way back, by then with help. On a broomstick? Asked Mary. With the vicar, your father, and Constable Buffin and old Zebedee following on bicycles. In spite of their plight, Peter laughed. Well, I suppose you couldn't use the broomstick. I don't know the way without the broomstick, said Mary grimly, and you say you don't either. It's no good, Peter. We'll have to get out of this together, or not at all. She hesitated, pulling a frond of fern absently between her fingers. Then she looked straight at him. It was strange to remember that shy and stiff Mary Smith of 2 days ago, who could never have spoken like this. And don't think I haven't realized that you've tried to save me twice, Peter, and risked yourself to do it. But it's together, or nothing. Okay, said Peter easily. He, thought Mary, must never have been shy in his life. Well, we have to think of something else. What about this master spell? Isn't there something in the book that'll help? No. I've been thinking and there isn't. There's only the master spell itself, and that simply undoes any magic that's in reach. It would unmagic our own little broomstick too. And even if I went and left you the master spell to protect you, you might never find your way home again, or we mightn't be able to find you. She turned her head to look at the gap of starlight at the end of the path. I have a feeling that we're in a very different country from our own, and it isn't just distance that separates them. Look, said Peter, don't sound so worried. We've done all right so far, haven't we? We'll think of something. In any case, I'd be nervous of using that master spell of yours. Just think if I did it when your broomstick was still in range, and getting you nicely up to 500 feet or so. Well, let's think what to do. Give the little broomstick a rest, first, said Mary, and maybe groom it a bit. It seems to like that. And she dismounted and stood stroking it with her fly-by-night hand. It certainly seemed to like that. It rubbed itself against her, purring. No, of course it wasn't purring. Mary turned her head sharply. It was Tib, beside her ear, who had suddenly purred, and his head was up and his ears cocked towards where, deep in the wood, something, was approaching them.